Hi, friends. Good morning. Happy Monday. And I guess Happy New Year also from when I'm recording this. It's not the new year, but by the time this airs, it'll probably be in the new year. So Happy New Year, if I'm timing this right. Um, Welcome. My name is Libby, and this is my audio journal, Finding Joy in the Shadows, where I spend time each week talking about the fun curveballs life throws our way and help us look for pockets of joy. This is an opportunity for me to continue working through my own stuff while also sharing ways to help anyone who might be listening work through some things in your life that you might be struggling with so that, like I say every week, we can all find joy together. So today, I thought, given that we're moving into the new year, 2025, so much is going on. I thought now might be a good time to talk about just focusing on mindfulness and joy. So that's going to be the topic that we'll dive into. But before we get started, uh, like I always do, I thought I would spend a few minutes catching up on some recent happenings from around the world and dive into a few Libby's problems or LPs that were on my radar last week. I will say, though, both of these stories that I'm going to talk about are actual real world problems, not just stories about some random story that I care about. So let's get into it. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and I'm going to be honest, I have still been blocking a ton of news and media in general right now, just blocking a lot of it. And like I've stated in previous episodes, I am currently focusing on my little tiny circle of influence and my day job. That's it right now. So my brain has had a little bit of difficulty processing all that has been going on recently. And it feels like every time I look at my phone, like in the last 48 hours, it was just one crazy story after another, which I will say forced me to actually take a pause and start looking into some of these stories. So, first one on the docket is the real life K drama unfolding in South Korea right now. And no, I am not talking about a new soap opera that I'm looking to get into. I mean, real political drama. Now, as of mid December, when I am recording this, so again, by the time this airs, lots could change from here. But from the time I'm recording this, the president of South Korea shocked not only the country, but the world by declaring martial law, right? Martial law, meaning the military needs to take over. So he randomly declares this martial law. Many of my friends and family have been asking me why did he do this, which is adorable, right? Yes, I am a huge K-pop and K-drama fan. Yes, I visited South Korea last fall. I am studying the language. Still can only speak in one, two-word sentences. But I am just as clueless as everyone else is as to how they run their country. So I had to do a little bit of digging. And from what I have been able to piece together, the president accused the opposition Democratic Party of teaming up with their besties to the north. And if you know geography, we're talking about North Korea. So little bit of sarcasm there if you haven't been able to pick it up. And he basically said that um, the opposition, the Democratic Party side, is teaming up with the quote unquote North Korean communists, is how we refer to it. Um, Now, if you are just as shocked at this claim, well, then join the club because everyone, not just in South Korea, but around the world, kind of their mouths kind of collectively hit the floor at the same time. And within hours, we saw images of military troops flooding the city of Seoul, storming government buildings, and even detaining lawmakers. It was quite scary for a moment. It was giving real high stakes drama vibes, straight out of a real blockbuster. Um, but there was a little bit of a plot twist. The South Korea National Assembly was like, not today, buddy. And they convened under all of this pressure and unanimously voted to rescind the martial law decree. And the kicker is the president balked at his own stance and agreed with the vote and just was like, okay, and moved away from his stance and acted as if nothing had happened. I think he offered an apology, was it like a one like was like sorry, not sorry in a way. Um, Completely crazy. No idea where the story is going to go next. I believe there's reports they will try to impeach him, but I will have to see what happens next. I'm sure by the time this airs in January, who knows what the future holds. But it was a crazy couple of hours. Now, of course, this story was bound to have a BTS angle because five of the boys are still serving, and one of them, my homeboy and bias V, who I've talked about a lot so far this new season, he is part of the elite SDT unit whose primary mission is to protect the Capitol. So the moment this story started unfolding, that's where my mind and my heart immediately went. Not just the boys, but I worried about V because I know them, right? And they know me. And so that's a natural thing. I know there's a therapy group out there somewhere for me. I just haven't found it. But my bestie, Teresa, I put her in charge of locating one. So who knows? Maybe I'll find a BTS support group. But okay, so when all of this stuff was unfolding, that's where my brain went. I wanted to make sure that they were okay, especially V. Given all this stuff was happening in the Capitol, I knew he would probably be present. Now I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me that was getting a little annoyed that none of the major news outlets thought that it was newsworthy to mention any of them. But whatever. Thankfully, the whole drama only lasted about 4 hours, and everyone in the country, including my boys, everyone stayed safe. And so that's really all that matters. Now, I will say in the days that followed, I did see a photo floating around of what might have been V. It was just a man in a black SDT uniform, masked up, so you couldn't tell if it was him, and he was wearing full battle gear and kind of looked badass, but could it have been V? Honestly, who the heck knows? But I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the guards rushing to protect the Capitol because that's his job now. Again, I am recording this in mid-December. This story is still evolving, so I will continue to keep everyone posted, not just on the happenings of South Korea, but how it's going to impact BTS because I know that's why you're tuning in. What else happened? So if you thought South Korea's drama had me glued to the news, well then buckle up, Buttercup, because the next story is equally crazy. Syria has taken things to a whole other level. I feel like they've been kind of the forgotten news story over the last 6, 7, 8 years. And everyone just kind of woke up one day and was like, oh, there's rebel forces that are fighting. Okay, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, within 11 days, there was this historic upheaval that felt like something straight out of like a Christopher Nolan movie. The rebel forces launched a swift offensive, captured key cities, and ultimately took control of Damascus in 11 days. Now, I will be honest, I didn't fully start paying attention until I saw reports that the president had fled the capital, which, newsflash, never a good sign when the leader is on the run. Just throwing that out there. Not a good look, not a good sign. And I am seeing reports that he is now allegedly, in quotations, seeking asylum in Moscow. As of the time I'm recording this, that has not been confirmed. But the whole thing has just been a crazy thing to witness in real time. People are in the streets. They have erupted into celebrations as thousands of prisoners are finally being set free from these horrendous military prisons. Some that are famous or I guess more infamous for their brutal human rights abuses. Just the videos that are coming out, the fact that humans were forced to stay in there, it's a place of nightmares. We're talking men, women, and children have been seen walking free, and their faces are just a complete mix of shock, disbelief, and pure relief after surviving some of the most unthinkable acts that were done to them and that they witnessed. Um, Now, whilst the future of Syria remains uncertain, this moment marks a powerful turning point. The people have taken their country back, and I can only hope that the Syrian people stay strong. I hope that they find a path towards democracy, though the road ahead will no doubt be a difficult one. Definitely sending all my thoughts and prayers to Syria, to South Korea, and hope that everyone stays safe and is protected. Okay. I couldn't think of any other hot topics or Libby's problems at the moment, so we'll go ahead and jump in. As usual, I've got my iced coffee here. And Lulu Joy is off at doggy daycare today. So no commentary from her. I was I was debating whether or not to take her. Homegirl was a little tired this morning. We were watching my furry nephew Ridley over the weekend because my amazing, phenomenal niece Abby had a fitness competition in Chicago over the weekend. And so we were taking care of him. And believe it or not, Lulu actually really loves her cousin. They snuggle, they sniff each other, and she doesn't growl at him when he gets in her face, which is very weird. And even when I may have been yelling at him for having quite a few accidents while I was in the shower Saturday night, she actually walked over and kind of gave me this look like, enough, mom, like leave my cousin alone. So she even protected him when I was not happy. We'll just put it at there. We'll just leave it there. But so she is a daycare, even though she is very tired. I felt she needed some Lulu time hanging out with her friends. So that is where she is. And we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, given the time this episode airs, we will be in the early days of 2025. And so I thought I would switch things up a bit. Not sure I would call this necessarily a life hack, but it's definitely a little habit I have spent at least the last 2 years working really hard on. And given that the new year is all about fresh beginnings, I thought this was the perfect time to share it with you. And it's about mindfulness and joy. And before you roll your eyes or think, ugh, another lecture about staying present, let me assure you, this is not that. This is just me sharing my personal experience and how practicing mindfulness has quietly helped me uncover just a little bit more joy in my life in this chaotic, cynical, demanding world. So for starters, what exactly does mindfulness and joy even mean? Well, if we consult our good friend, Mrs. Google, the phrase points to the beautiful connection between being fully present in the moment, mindfulness, and feeling happiness or contentment with what's in front of us. That's the joy. It sounds simple enough, right? But it's something I noticed many tend to overlook in the chaos of daily life. So let's start by saying this. I love my parents deeply, and what I am about to share is said with absolute zero disrespect, okay? My parents did the best they could with what they knew at the time, and they showed love in the ways that they understood, just like all of us do every day, right? When we look back at a memory, it's very easy to look back and point fingers. But the truth is, we're all guilty of only knowing what we know until that is life teaches us otherwise, and then we start to make small changes going forward. Now, with that said, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to focus on what's missing in our life? Maybe we've caught ourselves thinking, oh, if I just had this one thing, everything would be fine. That's the kind of mindset I personally grew up around. My parents worked hard and wanted the absolute best for us, but in looking back through the memory hole of my life, I noticed they often focused on what wasn't going right instead of appreciating what was. And I have this vivid memory of my mom dancing to the song We Are the Champions by Queen during a time when everything was going well for our family. But when life got tough again for us, nobody was singing that anymore. Looking back now, I can see that even during those really tough times that my family went through, we still had so much to be thankful for. We had shelter, food, water, clothing, and thankfully we always had gas for our car. But when we get stuck chasing what we didn't have, it became almost impossible for them to see those blessings. And trust me, I get it. I too have fallen into that trap myself many, many times as an adult. And it's taken me years to be able to recognize the difference between ambition that drives me forward and ambition that is robbing me of my joy. And it's not just my parents who struggled with this. I see this all around me. I see it in other family members. I see it in friends, colleagues, and even strangers. So many people, myself included, we get stuck in this same pattern of being so hyper-focused on what we don't have, right? Turn on any show on Bravo and you'll see plenty of examples of this. And it's not always about material things either. Sometimes we can see this play out in holding on to a past mistake or a grudge over something that might have happened years ago, years and years ago. Maybe you've seen this too. Someone stuck in a negative space, unable to move forward because they can't let go of that one thing. For example, I recently had a conversation with someone and I was blown away by the anger and resentment they are still holding on to, all because they have been unable to let go of a mistake they perceive their parents made decades ago. Now, from my position, right, I'm outside looking in. To me, what I see is a person who has lived a life of immense privilege. They had access to an incredible education. They have always had amazing career opportunities and countless second chances. Yet none of that seems to matter to this person because they have become fixated on this one perceived flaw from their parent. And here's the thing. While this person was telling me their story, I could see that this grudge they were holding on to wasn't just sitting there quietly. As this person continued to share their story with me, I could see that it has been actively stealing their ability to enjoy their adult life today. Instead of being able to say, yeah, my life isn't perfect. My parents could have handled things better. And the people I love aren't perfect, but wow, look at all the good I do have. Instead, they are stuck in a cycle of resentment. And it was a little heartbreaking to watch. And it really drove home for me how even holding on to the past can blind us to the blessings of our present. Practicing mindfulness and joy is about teaching ourselves the tools to let the good outweigh the bad. It's about stopping to notice the roses blooming right in our lives, right? Stopping to smell the roses, even when everything isn't perfect. How many of us have truly been able to do that? Now, let me start by admitting something. I've shared this before, right? It has taken me a long time to truly teach myself how to see all that is good in my life, even when chaos is swirling all around me. I vividly remember the day I started to become proactive on this journey. I remember I was sitting in Amy's parlor room. Again, for those new here, Amy is my therapist and life coach. And she asked me the question we've all been asked countless times before. How are you? Right? That's all she asked me. How are you? But this time, I think for the first time ever in my life, I actually paused and I really thought about it. And after a moment of thinking, if memory serves correct, Amy, if you're listening, you'll have to keep me honest. I think I said something like this. While work is hectic, but I'm grateful for the opportunities my pipeline will bring me this year, even though it's a bit overwhelming right now. My family, kind of crazy, per usual. I'm sure I said something about having a silly argument with my sister, or at the time, my dad probably did something to annoy me, and my mom was probably doing something as well. And I remember I had a close friend of mine who had gone quiet for a period, and they were dealing with personal things, and it was tough not being able to help her. Um, and then I said, but you know what? I'm healthy, I'm employed, my bills are all paid, and I've got a girls' trip to Vegas coming up. So for me, I'm doing okay. I will never forget Amy's reaction after I said this. Her face lit up like a Christmas tree. And she told me how much growth she saw in me in that moment. It wasn't just that I was able to acknowledge the messy parts of my life, because believe me, they were definitely there. But I was also able to recognize all that was good. And it was my ability to focus on those good things that helped me believe and feel that I was okay. For the first time ever in my life, I had taught myself to look at the bigger picture and embrace the not so good parts without letting them overshadow everything else that was going on in my world. I appreciated where I was in that moment. And because of that, I was, in fact, A-okay. So why am I sharing all of this with everyone through the waves of podcast world? Why does mindfulness even matter? Well, if I'm being honest, I have come to see it as one of the biggest ways to help me unlock joy in my life. For me, being mindful has helped me manage stress, calm my anxieties, and help me even work through moments where I felt stuck. At its core, mindfulness is about learning how to stop, take a breath, and just be present without judging yourself or your surroundings. It's about teaching ourselves to focus on the good pieces in our thoughts, feelings, and the world around us. And it's allowing those good pieces to outweigh any of the bad. And here's the cool part. When I started practicing mindfulness regularly, it opened this whole new door to joy. Why? Maybe you're asking yourself. Because it helped me actually see and appreciate all the little, often overlooked things in my life. Stuff like savoring a really good Korean stew, or taking Lulu Joy for a walk through downtown Wayzata, or just laughing at something ridiculously silly on Instagram. It's these moments, these little moments that keep us grounded and in the present. And when we are focused in the now, it's so much easier to feel gratitude, happiness, and let's be real, actual joy. Sounds easy, right? Just focus on the good. Sure, problem solved. Except, let's be real, it's not always that simple. And that's okay. For most of us, being mindful is going to take some effort, some real practice, and setting time aside to work on it. And I will admit, personally, it has taken me years of trial and error to figure out what works for me. None of this stuff just miraculously came to me one day. Okay. I want to be real here for a moment. This came to me from my conversations with Amy over the last 10 years. They came from those surprisingly insightful online reels I see on the socials. Don't judge me. There's some really good stuff out there. And they came from moments when I was just simply trying to survive. But here's the thing. Being mindful isn't something we figure out overnight. If you don't have someone like Amy in your corner, or if your inner circle maybe isn't equipped to teach you these things, that's okay. It's about taking what you can by maybe piecing together the lessons I've shared in previous episodes, like learning to pause, practicing gratitude, or shifting our mindset, and then applying them baby step by baby step. When we bring all these pieces together, They help us create the foundation for being more mindful, for practicing mindfulness, and can help us truly focus on the good we do have in our life. Okay, so let me take you back to how I began my journey towards being more mindful. It started with learning to pause and peel back the layers of my life, kind of like peeling an onion. If this analogy sounds familiar, it's because the process is very similar to what I shared in episode 11, Choosing Joy Amid the Shadows. Remember how I used the onion analogy there too? There we talked about how in times of stress, it's okay to turn off the noise from the outer layers to help protect our core, that inner place where we sit and find clarity. For me, though, being mindful isn't about quieting things. It's about simply taking inventory of where things stand in my life. And I've trained my brain when assessing each layer to give more weight to the good over the bad. It's not about pretending challenges don't exist. It's about letting the positives hold more space and outweigh the negatives, even in difficult moments. For me, when I take inventory of how I'm doing, my layers are the same ones I shared in episode 11. And for those that need a refresher, they go like this. First, there's me, because I am at the very center of my own universe. Anyone who says the world doesn't revolve around you, that is not true, because the world does revolve around you because you are important too, and you are at the center of your own universe. The next layer outside of me is where I find my dog, Lulu Joy, because of course, my baby girl has her own layer. Then I take stock on the next layer, where my immediate family and my besties are. Then I continue outward, where the rest of my family and friends are. Then I continue outward to where my job is, my community, my state, my country, and then finally the world. Remember that? Now, with some practice, this process only takes seconds, milliseconds, if that. But I have found this technique has helped me focus on what's in my control and reminds me to acknowledge the good alongside the bad. Again, this doesn't happen overnight, friends. Practicing mindfulness is a deeply personal journey because it's different for everyone. What works for me might not work for you, and that's okay. It's about finding your own process. So now let's take a moment to work through our layers. Now it's your turn to build out your onion. Picture yourself at the center of your own onion. Start with the outer layer first, right? We're going to start outward. World events, maybe your job, and then we're going to work inwards to what truly matters and help identify your layers. And give each one a check-in. For example, world events, a little heavy at the moment, but if we can't personally change them, then all we can do is acknowledge them, that they exist, and then we let them go, and so on and so on. The goal isn't to dive deep into everything. It's about recognizing the simple truths of our life. Maybe our job isn't the dream role yet, but it's paying the bills. Maybe life isn't perfect, but our family is healthy, our pantry is stocked, and maybe your kids or pets are happy. That's worth acknowledging too. And at its core, mindfulness is about focusing on what's working in our life and being okay with where we are right now. Life might not look exactly how we envisioned it would look at this point in our life, and the world might feel really messy. But if we pause for just a moment and take stock of the things that truly matter to us, we will see there is always something to be grateful for. Before I wrap up, I want to leave you with this powerful quote I came across a few months ago. Unfortunately, I have no idea who spoke it. I legit found it randomly online and I jotted it down, but I didn't write down who said it. And the quote simply says, "Love what you have now before life teaches you to love what you lost." I'm going to say that again. Love what you have now before life teaches you to love what you lost. Right? Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Take a moment to reflect on this as you go about your day. Mindfulness is about embracing the good we have in our life right now before it slips away unnoticed. Let this be your gentle reminder to pause, appreciate, and truly love your present. Okay, I think I've babbled on long enough. As always, we will add to this next week. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, has an amazing week, and I look forward to our next chat. Peace out, friends.